welcome everyone, welcome again. Welcome to this workshop which is being organized for the Hive members. I hope when I say Hive members, all of you understand what I mean. So that is the platform where all of you are members of the B Skills Hive platform. We were really excited over the last couple of weeks to see a real excitement and a zeal to complete the ABC analysis course, which has been ongoing. And we have seen a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, discussions. We have been reading all that. We've also received a lot of assignments as well, completed assignments. And I would like to congratulate all those participants who have already submitted their assignments and received their certificates. And I believe there are a lot of people who are somewhere in the middle of the course or probably collecting the data so that they can finish their assignments. And this workshop is also a way to encourage you to finish that so that we can move on to a new topic very soon. I would like to introduce myself very quickly. So my name is Sanjay Saha. I'm the CEO of B Skilled. I've been working in the public health sector for the past decade or so. I've worked in sub-Saharan Africa and a lot of the countries where I'm seeing our participants coming from. I've worked a lot in Southeast Asia as well. My focus areas have been supply chain, pharmaceutical regulatory, human resource management, and these days through B Skilled, we are focusing a lot on creating an affordable digital medium for learning and development. I will quickly pause here and hand it over to Gilles Marion, who will take the first section of this workshop. Gilles, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Good day, everyone. It's nice to see different people from various parts of the world around here today. My name is Gilles Marion. I am speaking to you from France. My background is in supply chain and in training. I've worked also in public health, in humanitarian and development sectors. I've worked in the private sector and as well as in the not-for-profit sector. And I've worked in various countries in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa. At B Skilled, I'm the Director of Education. So my role is really to ensure that the didactic process, the pedagogic process that are used are going to have impact on learners and on the community we're working with. Let's go on with the agenda of the workshop. So the introduction of the workshop, speakers and ground rules, I'm going to take that on. Then we'll move to an introduction of what is ABC analysis and Pareto Principles. Then I'll finish my part looking at ABC analysis and its needs in the health supply chains. Then Sanjay will take over from here and they will look at how we can combine ABC analysis with Venn classification, and then looking at completed ABC analysis by learners, those who have completed the work that was provided within the course. Then we'll move into a discussion about how to use the results of this ABC analysis in your work. Then finally, we'll take the final remark and evaluation of the workshop. This is just a quick view to show how many people have engaged in the course. I mean, not too much how many people have engaged, but from where, which location. So I'm not going to say all the countries which are represented in this course. Some of them are here with us today, even from as far as, I think you said Honduras. I don't know what time is it. It must be early morning now in Honduras. So good morning in Honduras. Well, it's already late in India and in Pakistan. Or even in Bangladesh, even later in Bangladesh. So good evening also. It's nice to have a broad scope of countries being represented here. So a quick introduction to the course statistics beyond the geographical location. So there was an enrollment of 108 persons who decided to enroll in this course. Out of those 108 persons, 18 have already been awarded the certificate, which means they've completed the course and the exercise. Then you have 45 learners who haven't started yet, and 45 learners who have partly completed. So we encourage you all, of course, to proceed and try to complete the assignment and get the certificate. If we look at the ABC analysis, the course statistic, not the ABC analysis, sorry, the course statistic for this course, we have had 115 comments on learning materials. There's been 47 discussion and forum responses, and then there's been a number of assignments which is submitted, which is 19. So this is a bit to give you the background of this course, so that everybody knows a bit where we are, who is participating, and the variety of profile who are contributing to this course. We hope that after this workshop, we'll have more people completing the exercise. It's also an opportunity to discuss openly among those who have already completed the work, to find, to progress, to raise questions, and to go deeper into the details of the course. Now maybe we can quickly move to the ground rules, although they've already been evoked. But very quickly, as you know, to remind to everyone who could have joined a bit later, this Zoom video is being recorded. This Zoom webinar is being recorded. It's going to be shared later on the Hive, so others will be able to access the content of this course. So please, if you don't want to be recorded or if you don't want to be seen, this is probably the moment where you should leave the space. But otherwise, we consider that you agree that this course is going to be available on the Hive. Please, when you participate to this, mute your microphone so that there is no background noise. There is a chat window that you can use. You know the thing about raising hands, so you can use it if you want to contribute. And even before that, please, when you join, feel free to put your name, your country of origin, your responsibilities, your job profile, anything you want to tell us about you. We'll be happy to have it. So now we'll start with an introduction to ABC analysis and the Pareto Principle. So the ABC analysis is a technique for prioritizing. Sorry, I have a French accent. I told you right from the start I'm French, so you'll have to cope with that. So the ABC analysis is a technique for prioritizing the management of inventory, segmenting product portfolio. So when you have a large number of products or a large number of items, and more generally, as we'll see it after, ABC analysis is a good technique for identifying priority. Inventories can be categorized then in three classes: the A classes, the A class, the B class, and the C class. Most management efforts, most oversight efforts are going to be expended on managing A items. They are the high profile item. C items will get less attention, and B items are in between. We have summarized this ABC with 3 words. I mean, the words came after ABC, but they are still here and they are still purposeful with A, always, B, better, C, control, always better control, which means that A product, you should always have an eye on them. Very systematic and continuous attention. B for better, you kind of have a better look at it, you have a better attention to it. And C, you control them. They require control, but a regular control, periodic, should be enough to control the bulk of the product. And as you can see below, there is 1 cube for A, 3 cubes for B, and 5 cubes for C. That represents the fact that more quantities are in the C area. So really the aim of this ABC analysis, when you apply it to stock management, is really to be able to prioritize among a large number of items, those that will require a specific focus. Now, just to say that if you look at the C analysis, you will notice that there are much more items, much more SKU, single units that are listed in the C control. So that helps really to focus on a limited number of items. Next, so why is needed an ABC analysis? You know, as we were saying earlier, health supply chain may carry inventory of a large variety of SKU, a large variety of items, pharmaceutical, medical supply, diagnostics, chemicals. You can have a lot of variety, consumable, you know, a lot of variety of items. So sometimes the numbers may run into the thousands. There are a lot of inventory systems where you have 5,000, 6,000 SKU. So managing those inventories can be very complex. And it involves always to answering at least two questions, which is how much should I order and when to order. So you have 5,000 items and you need to know how much for each of those items, how much you need to reorder and when you need to place this order. So the answers to this question need to be based on an analysis of the demand, how much product are going to be demanded that you will have to ship, and the lead time for replenishment. So when you have those three elements, the demand, the lead time, and the stock available, which is, you know, this element of reordering and stock management, then you are able to manage your inventory in an effective manner. Okay, so it will not be useful to measure one all of the 5,000 SKU if you have 5,000 SKU, but if you can have a global approach to segment your stock between various priority, then you can have a bulk management for the C item, a very specific management for the A item, and in between for the B items. So if you look at you know, how ABC analysis can come as a solution, you have the four little image on the right. ABCs, and you have A, B, and C. I mean, the first post-it note, the yellow one, is when you arrive and you have all your stock in bulk. And what are you going to do with this? And if you, for those who are working in warehouses, you know that if your warehouses is not in order and you have all those cartons and those boxes piled up with no reference, it's going to be very complicated to manage. So the idea is to organize them according to the three post-its, green, red, and orange post-it. You say, okay, you have the A priority. You can see one box in a shell, very clearly identifiable. You can use them. B, they are piled in a very organized manner. And C, I would not recommend that we use the C approach as it is designed here on the post-it, of course, but still, it's still a bulk approach to managing the activity. So ABC analysis has been based on the criteria of quantities in demand and dollar value. You can use various approach. If you are a financial person, if you are working in finance, maybe when you will do the stock value analysis, you look at the value and you do an ABC analysis according to the value of the items that are in stock, because you are worried about the investment which is immobilized in your stock. While if you are a logistician and a supply chain manager, you will mostly look at the quantities in demand, because what you don't want to do is to miss an order which is going to be coming. So the ABC analysis will help you, whatever the criteria that you want to prioritize, either it is shipment, quantity shipped, or either it is values of the items, it will help you to organize and analyze your stock. And it's based on the principle that there are relatively small numbers of items when you are going to classify them. So for instance, in category A, it will account for the bulk of the dollar value or budget or the quantities, but there will be a very small number of items. Maybe, you know, it will represent, if you take the A, there are those quantities that are going to be shipped. Maybe every day you will ship some of those quantities. And then otherwise, they are the ones who are extremely costly. If you have one box, maybe one box will represent already itself, you know, a very high value. So category A, if you use the budget focus, category A will represent the main part of your budget. The other extreme category is category C. You have a lot of items, as you can see in the post-it, a lot of items, but in fact, they represent a very small number of your shipment, or they represent a very small number of the value of your overall stock. They stand for minimal part of the value and minimal part of the cost. And the B category are in between the A and C. You still ship them from time to time because orders are coming in regularly, but they are not as essential as the A product. And then in terms of value, maybe they represent the middle cost of your items. They are not high value or high demand. They are not low value or low demand. They are just in between. So this is based on the Pareto Principle. So if you've heard about the Pareto Principle, it is also sometimes called the 20/80 Principle. It is very well presented here with this you call that an iceberg, where you see the visible part of the iceberg is 20%, but in fact the underlying part of the iceberg is 80% of it. And we say that 20% of the causes are created by 80% of the effect. So if you look at the Pareto Principle, you consider that 20% of the time expended produces to 80% of the result. So if you invest 20% of your time in doing something, you will see that the result will be you will reach 80% of your result. That's, for instance, the example of the if you're a marketing person, for instance, and you're making phone calls to get, for instance, a new customer. You will see, for instance, that out of the 100 calls you make, 20% of your call will create 80% of the return in terms of sales contact. If you look at 80% of your phone calls now, go to 20% of on your name list. If you look at your phone and you look the name in your phones, maybe you have 100 names in your phone, you will see that 80% of your call are going to 20% of the names which are in your phone, and maybe less, maybe even less. So maybe the ratio can be sometimes a bit higher than that. 20% of the streets handle 80% of the traffic. If you look at a town, you will notice that 80% of the traffic is concentrated on 20% of the street. 80% of the meals in a restaurant come from 20% of the menu items. It's always the same one which are selling. Now, taking this example, we are getting closer to our stock management. You know, if you're a chef in a restaurant and you have a long menu and you know that people are asking for 20% of this menu only, you will want to focus on those 20%. You don't want to miss those 20% because you know 80% of your customers are going to ask for 20% of those items. So if it is the chicken burger which is in favor, you don't want to miss chicken, you don't want to miss the bun, you don't want to miss the cheese. Otherwise, you've lost 80% of your customers. So very important. 20% of the paper has 80% of the news. You want to read 80% of the news in the world, just open 20%, the right 20% pages of the newspaper, and you'll get it. In essence, the Pareto Principle is saying that 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. So if we look at the iceberg again, 20% of the cause are creating 80% of the effect. The consequences, the results are coming from 20% of the cause. So the ABC analysis is based on this principle. There are various applications that can be made from this, but the practical reason for applying the Pareto Principle is that it can give you a window into who to reward or what to fix. It's to find really what is the key element which is making a change or creating a problem or achieving success. However, it does not apply to every scenario. If we look at business management, we can find several examples where Pareto Principle is quite relevant. So, for instance, if you look at the small graphic, you will see that in business, you can complete the top 20% of your to-do list. Okay, that may be a way to focus on important things. We have your to-do list. We all have to-do lists, and we don't manage them all as efficiently as Sanjay does. We try, but when if you're not an expert in managing to-do lists, please focus on the 20% which are the most relevant, which means you will be able to achieve 80% of the impact you expect to impact. If you focus on the same with your workload, if you focus on the 20%, the most important of your workload, you may avoid missing important and urgent things. If you have complaint from your customer, if you're working in sales, you have complaint from the customer, focus on the 20% of the complaints, and you'll solve already a huge part of your work. If you understand your customer, again, to make the bulk of your revenue, is what we were saying a bit earlier, when you call, when you have sales contact, you have to know that 20% of your customer are going to make 80% of your revenue. And the same thing for risk, 20% of your risk can have the most devastating impact on your activity. So you have those examples which are given in the slide. For instance, 80% of customers only use 20% of software features. So it's always this rule about the 80% and the 20%. 80% of your complaints come from 20% of your customer, 80% of problems originate with 20% of your project. It's always this rule about 20-80. It may sound like, a bit of approximation, or it's a bit, but it's an intuitive, and in fact it is proven by the practice. So if you look in practice, this is an important. This is something which is proven right. Please. Okay, so another example here is of how it is used how the Pareto Principle can be used in medical thing, and I will finish with this before we move to question and answer. As you can see here, we have a chart which is showing the Pareto Principle or Pareto chart with medication error. So there are 4 vital few medication error which are representing the 20% of the medical error, and which contribute to 80% of the problem in patients. So if you look in the blue column, okay, are showing the number of medication error. And if you look below, you have the exact type of medication error which has taken place. So if you look dose missed, so there has been 92 dose missed out of 430 medication error, and there has been a wrong time for the medication is 83, wrong drug 76 case of wrong drug out of 430 So what you do, you add up all those cases, and then slowly you create that brown curve, which is going from 0 to 100%. And when that brown curve reaches the 80%, when you reach the line of 80%, as you can see, where the green line is crossed with the brown one, it means that you have reached your 80% of the Pareto chart. You have reached the 80% of vital few error that you need to fix before you even start to look at the trival mean. Once you fix those ones, probably the chart will change. But obviously, the priority, what you need to put your focus is on those vital few, rather than to focus on the trival mean. From all of you, if you have any example of the Pareto principle from your work or daily life, as you can see, it can work in workplace, but it can work also at home, that you would like to share with everyone, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to be part of this session of ABC analysis, the practical part of which I've always been getting about the theoretical part in the during studies, yet to practice it has not been easy. But this here has caused me, I don't want to say force, they have caused me to get into practicing ABC analysis, and I'm so grateful to them. And one thing I decided to do was to try to get an ABC analysis of the house needs, the things that I need in the home. And I discovered that ABC analysis is applicable even in my home, that 20% of the things that consume my monthly income were rather very few items as compared to the majority of the things that I don't want to say waste money on them that were not so necessary. So, in fact, I've gone as far as applying ABC analysis in my home. Is even helping me to save some income. So I'm grateful to this key. They thought they were doing that just in a supply chain, but I'm using it in my home, and I'm grateful to them. So that is my experience. And looking around me, I discovered that very few people are doing the job that ends up bringing a good name to an organization. And I saw that only about 20% of the people are involved and are doing a good job. So I see that ABC analysis, in fact, is applicable. If you take it even to the church, you will see it applicable. So thank you so much, BSK, for thinking why to bring this kind of a topic at this moment. I'm so grateful because, and I'm promising that I promised already to write that I'm going to be applying in my organization squarely to see how it will help the organization to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Somebody else who would like to comment? Somebody else who would like to contribute?
There is a question for you as well, Gilles, in the chat, if you're able to read that.
Yeah, I've read it. So thank you. It's coming from Shair. So yes, is the travel few item when that together in terms of expiry value can be high cost if the stock is not moving fast, especially medical supplies. Yes, that's totally true. A few things about ABC analysis. First, it is one element of analysis. So it cannot be a standalone analysis. You have to look, of course, at other criteria to make your choices. And of course, depending on the way you manage your stock, regarding, expiry date, if you want to manage it also first in, first out, or various methodology, you'll have to adapt this regularly. The C item, it doesn't mean you don't control them. You have to look at them, of course, particularly with the scope of the expiry date. A bit later, Sanjay is going to take us through the Venn diagram also to look at other criteria that can help us to prioritize goods. So indeed, you have to look at all those criteria. Just one thing about the ABC analysis. It's very good to put order into chaos, as we say. In logistics, this sentence to put order into chaos in supply chain is very important, because you often have situation where you can face chaos in stock management and supply and things like that. So when you have to face this kind of a bit disordered stock, then ABC analysis is a very good way to enter and to solve it prioritize the problem. Then of course you can go in other steps. ABC analysis may not be the best rule in itself for long-term management of stock. As you now have a lot of algorithm within a warehouse management system, which are going to propose you alternative beyond the ABC analysis. But it's good to have this ABC analysis. We know also that intuition, sometimes a rule of thumb when you're managing a stock is still important to get, and you don't always have warehouse management system very well developed. So I hope I answer your question, but it's very true, Shahir, as you said. There is not only one rule that will answer all the problems. You need to combine various criteria.
Yeah, and just to add, I mean, you see what ABC analysis does here would give you visibility that there are several of these C items which are not moving, which are sitting on the shelf, and hence, one, you need to do your forecasting for the next period in a much better way. You need to probably stop any further reorders for the same items if there were any, and probably in the next cycle, you may want to manage those products in a much better way, and also if there are near expiry, if in due because it's not a one-time analysis, it has to be a continuous analysis. So over time, when you see that the products are near expiry, then you need to find ways of getting rid of them, whether you are giving it to another facility, whether you are there is an arrangement between a distributor where they take those products, give it to another place where they're required, and then give you a fresh batch of products. I've seen those kind of things happening informally. So the ABC analysis helps you get visibility on your inventory, and it has to be done. It has to be looked at continuously. You can't just do it like once in 2 years and then say, oh, this is what I did in 2 years, and now it is not the reality. Of course, it won't be the reality because things change. It's a dynamic world. Supply chain is quite dynamic. So we have to keep doing these kind of analysis over and over again to understand the inventory cycles and the priorities, the focus. Okay. Also, we would like to hear from any other participant on their own experience or any other questions that you would like to ask here. Otherwise, we will quickly move on to the next section.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Yes, nice to meet you. Thank you.
I'm Salamite from Ethiopia. I'm working in pharmaceutical company. I have experience using the Pareto Principle in commerce in non-pharmaceutical products, but I didn't know how to apply this principle in pharmaceutical manufacturing sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. When you were using it in a commercial sector, it was for maximizing sales. It was with regard to sales. Okay.
Yes.
You focus on the high value customer or the high value product? Okay.
High value products.
Okay. I'm a second now. I've said my.
Merci.
I think she had a question in between as well, that she had found it difficult to utilize it in the manufacturing sector. I think in terms of manufacturing also, it looks at your orders, the orders that you're receiving from your clients. And if you do an analysis in that sense, you will see that 20% or rather 80% of your orders are for 20% of your products. So your manufacturing cycles, the way you manufacture products, those cycles, because you're manufacturing in cycles, you're not doing manufacturing every day, every month, every year. So there are certain cycles. So those cycles needs to be adjusted for those 20% of products where you're receiving 80% of orders or whatever value. I mean, in terms of Pareto, it may not be 20-80, it may be 20-70. It may be 25-65, whatever that is. So those small number of products for which you are always receiving the orders from your clients. So for those products, the manufacturing cycles needs to be adjusted. So that is how you apply this ABC analysis for manufacturing?
Please, ABC analysis and its need in health supply chain. So let's focus on the needs in health supply chain. So in the coming slide, we will be discussing 3 different applications of ABC analysis in health supply chain. The first item that we'll look at will be how do we apply it in warehousing, storage, and inventory management. Then we'll look at procurement of medical products and quality assurance of medical products. This is going to be discussed. I mean, the last one, procurement and the quality assurance, are going to be also discussed in line with the Venn classification for better results. So this is when we'll combine ABC analysis and Venn classification. So let's start with warehousing, storage, and inventory management. How would we use the ABC analysis in this point? So you have here a 4th stage, which is starting on the top right corner, which is then ABC analysis is a simple framework to work out which item in the warehouse are the most important and should therefore consume most of the time in terms of stock control and stock management. Okay, it doesn't mean it should consume all your time, but most of your time. So most of your time, you need most of your attention, you need to put on the always the A category. Focusing on category A items could include reviewing and updating their demand forecast more frequently to guarantee the stock availability and prevent stock outs as it is the priority. Those are the items which are always on demand, so you don't want to miss an order, which means you will always look at the demand. If the demand forecasts are changing, if the demand is increasing, if there are peaks because there is a disease somewhere which is spreading more faster than planned, or because there is some demand, some movement of population, or I don't know, then you need to be able to respond to this and be able to anticipate very closely the need. Then moving to step 3, the storage expenses are cut down considerably with ABC analysis-based system, as it helps in terms of provision of maintaining enough C category stocks without compromising the most important element. So yes, you will reduce maybe some of your stock expenses because you know that the C product may be in less demand. So you will not need to have a high level of stocks. It happens a lot that sometimes you realize that you have very high level of stock in one product, which is maybe when you look at the demand and you look at your stock, you will realize that it's going to take you 5 years or 6 years to get rid of all of these stocks. Then indeed at that time you have a problem. You have a problem to solve. And then finally, this method also helps businesses to maintain control over the costly item in supply chain category A, which may be on high demand. So as you can see in those you have really those 2 aspects that we raised at the beginning. One is ensuring that you respond to demand, making sure you don't miss orders on critical item. And the second one is ensuring that you maintain your cost at the best level. And those 2 elements are, of course, very important. Why it is a circle? Because things change with time. Things change with time. Things change in space and time. Those criteria are going to be different. The ABC analysis will change. Sometimes you have overstock, sometimes you have understock, and sometimes the demand will change. So this needs to be done regularly. So warehousing, storage, and inventory management for large warehouse, the efficiency of warehouse operation is closely related to travel distance, storage, and location. And it is so the ABC analysis is applicable for both warehouses which are operated manually and or with automated handling equipment. So this ABC analysis, again, we said it, it can be sometimes included into a warehouse management system. So if you have a fully automated warehouse with very limited people, like those huge warehouses of Amazon or I don't know, those kind of things, you will still you can still need to have this ABC analysis. It can be integrated in the software, but in warehouses where you have much more movement, of course, the efficiency of the warehouse will be really depending on how much walk, how much distance everyone has to walk, or any forklift has to ride before they can access the items which are in high demand. So on average, 60% of warehouse workers spend their time on transporting themselves around the warehouse. So this is a bit of a worrying number. Since so much time they spend on transport, the highly effective way of increasing the efficiency of the warehouse is to ensure that priority items are stored in the right part of the warehouse, which means very clearly accessible, very fast accessible for fast storage, picking and dispatching. The less you have to walk to pick your items, the less it's going to be complicated. Also, costly or heavy-duty item might require a special location. Okay, this is a bit another characteristic, but the characteristic like cost, brittleness, weight, volume. So you will need to also allocate specific space for specific items. So as we said earlier, you have several criteria to reorganize your space. But the basic criteria is depending on the ABC analysis. So not taking into consideration the value or the weight of the item, or maybe some element of cold chain control or other element. But overall, if you look at the requirement and how you are going to lay out your warehouse, you will see that you have one space that you can see on the next slide. You have some spaces which are very close to the dispatch area, and you will put class A items as close as possible as the packing area. You can see it's on the left of the warehouse here, while the C items are really in the remote area, which are even harder to reach because you only go there once in a while. So warehouse areas can then be also, the area also can be classified as A, B, or C, where you have a zone, a location for a product. And that is the easiest area to reach. And it is placed as close as possible to the shipping area. Whereas the B and C areas are further away from the warehouse exit zone. This will help a lot to reduce the time spent on picking goods and thereby significantly increasing the warehouse operational efficiency. So this is a way really to map, to organize your warehouse, and it can go even from very small warehouse to very large one, as we'll see. But anyway, there are other options like safety option, as we say, to look for A category, but keeping the flow will always be keeping the flow for high priority, is an important element, still managing the risk. In some places, you demark a space for each category. Sometimes it's even painted on the warehouse. On the warehouse floor, you will have a big sign showing, A category, B category, or C category. So it's not something which is, done. It's not just nice to have. I mean, it's really something which is a fundamental way of organizing your stock. And as we say, it can go up to how a warehouse is going to be built and organized. Again, as mentioned earlier, if you look at the way it can be applied, if you look on the next slide, you will see that it can be applied to very large warehouses, fully automated warehouse, but it can also work in smaller stock and smaller facilities. ABC analysis can help in better inventory control, order management, also avoiding expiry for critical items, even in small clinic. For a small facility, ABC analysis can highlight those 10 to 20 products, sometimes not more than 10 to 20, which are always in high demand and which are high value. So maybe it will not be used to reorganize your shelf, but it will be used to focus on making sure you don't run out of such a product. And the storekeeper or the pharmacist in charge can then ensure that those products are always accounted for, that their inventory is managed carefully with regular data collection and validation, while making sure that dispensing those products is also done carefully. As we saw in one of the post-it earlier, when you have your A product, if you only have a specific shelf in your health center, you can decide to put all those A products in a very visible shelf where even if you run out of stock, you will immediately see it because you have those 10, 20 products which are always there under your eyes. So that's a good way to reorganize even a small stock. So now we are moving again to a question and answer area. The question will be, can anyone put some light on how products are stored in their warehouses, and if picking and packing places, if picking and packing takes a long time? You can also mention if you have picking and packing places which are organized according to the ABC analysis. How do you ensure that products which are in high demand are managed carefully so that they are always in circulation?
I think Princely has already asked the question in the chat, so there have been a couple of responses. But I think if I have to answer Princely's question, Princely, it depends first of all on what is the objective of that institution. If it is to make money, then you focus on those products which are moving at a normal pace but are making more money. So you prioritize those products. But if the objective is not to make money, but to make sure that the critical products are available, or the products which are of high value are available, then you need to focus on those which does not generate much income but are required. In these scenarios as well, ABC analysis is not only the solution. And that's why we will also be talking VEN classification shortly in this session. VEN classification tells you also some of those products which are not very fast moving, but are equally important. So that's why we're saying ABC analysis is good to do. It's a very good tool, but it needs to be combined with a few more techniques. And especially for pharmaceuticals, VEN classification is very critical, because then you get visibility on those items, just like you said, that they are not fast movers. They may not generate a lot of income, but they're critical to have because they are life-saving. So if you don't have those products, someone may die. Okay, so you have to manage your inventory, control your inventory in such a way that those products are always available. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, there is right now, if you ask it in that way, there is no, I would say, direct answer. It really depends on the organizational priorities. Okay, so I would put it like that.
Thank you. This is a great opportunity to join or to be in here. I'm greeting from Somalia, the capital city Mogadishu. Yes, if I respond this, our warehouse is organized, particularly for medical warehouses, organized for pharmacotribute categories. And that's also some of our problems, and when we are picking and unpacking. So I see this ABC analysis a very important criteria that we can reduce our picking and packaging our supplies. Thank you.
The alphabetical order is what is so eminent in the CDC Central Pharmacy. ABC most often is applied during procurement, but coming to warehousing is not really eminent that way. Then they project the ABC, the alphabetical classification actually. So it's, and also consideration are the dosage forms. That's what the mostly would use, not the ABC analysis.
Hello, everybody. You know, in most of the pharmacies or pharmaceutical warehouses, the arrangement is quite different. It's either you arrange by dosage form, as the other participant said, or according to the pharmaceutical active ingredients, or according to VEN in some instances. So that's why we miss on the ABC warehousing. But I think if we combine the both systems, it will work out. But the problem is when we are working, maybe we are not concentrating on which ones are fast moving, because our criteria is to serve the patients on a daily basis. So I think we need to combine. I got your answer earlier on. So the combination might help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shahir, and we'll come to that just after. We've seen one question from Sheila about how do you apply ABC in small facilities with space constraints. Yes, you will not be able to create maybe various zones for your in your warehouse if you have space constraints. But you can use, for instance, in a shelf, even in a shelf, you can use to put in priority the A product and the B product in a shelf. Maybe then the C product, you will find another space which is less easy to access, but you are keeping those ones and you are going to look at them only once a week. So maybe that's a possible way of doing it. You can have the top shelves, the shelves which are just as easily reachable by hand, where you put your A product, the one which are down, B product, and then the one very high on the shelf that you can hardly reach, the C product. That's a bit the way they do it in supermarket. When you go in the supermarket, you have your A product in front of you, you can go and pick them up. Down and then up is the one that are very hard to reach. Maybe the criteria they've used in the supermarket is more the profits are going to make on each item to classify as ABC, or maybe the money they are getting from the supplier from the manufacturer to sell their product. But all those kind of things are just a way, again, as it was said, it was raised a bit earlier. It depends on the criteria that you use to prioritize. Is it stock availability? Is it fulfilling order, or is it money or income you're going to make, or value of the product?
And just to add, while I've visited several facilities, very small facilities to large facilities as well. I've seen at several places where the pharmacist who is in charge of that store, for example, I've seen a few pharmacists, a couple of them in India, one in Nigeria, where they were doing a very similar practice without even knowing that they were applying this 80-20 rule. So they had similar space constraints, and what they were doing was the items which they were dispensing most often, they were keeping in smaller kind of boxes, although those boxes, not cardboard boxes, sometimes they had plastic boxes, sometimes they had bigger cardboard boxes, but they were keeping it quite closer to them, so probably on top of the counter or just below the counter, so that, they are just right there, in the vicinity, so that they can always monitor them, control them. And then they would keep other products probably somewhere behind. If they don't have space, they would pack those items, keep it somewhere else, so it really depends on your space. Once you understand the concept, you can go visualize your space, look at where you can keep those items which are mostly in demand or high value, needs more control. Sometimes in some places they put a lot of control on narcotics, for example, so they can also come in there in terms of VN classification. Okay, but you need to visualize your space think where you can keep those products which require stricter control. And then you should be able to do it because it's your space, you know it the best, right? So you can use this concept in various ways, in various places, in whichever say space constraint that you have. You just need to visualize it and apply these concepts. Okay. So let me first of all thank Gilles. So thanks a lot, Gilles, for taking us this far. So as you saw in one of the previous slides, that we're going to be focusing on 3 different applications. So Gilles talked about the warehousing, storage, and inventory management part of it. Now we are going to be quickly focusing on procurement and quality assurance. And over there, we will also discuss the VEN classification. Okay, so let me go on to the procurement slide. So, in several countries which are, smaller. So there are very small countries in Africa as well, where as a whole in the entire country, the procurement budgets are not very high. Okay, so for example, if you take a country like Lesotho, okay, which is surrounded by South Africa, it's a very small country. Or if you take a country like Swaziland, they're a very small country. They don't have many people. So their procurement budgets are also very small. So it becomes difficult for them to find manufacturers for all their products. I mean, their product needs might be very similar to a mid-sized country. They may still need 500 different products, but that number, the consumption and the demand for each of the products may not be very high. And thus it becomes very difficult for those countries, organizations, and let's say private pharmacies or public pharmacies to actually get products directly from manufacturers or even from wholesalers sometimes. So it gets very difficult to order. So then how do you find those products? How do you get better prices? And sometimes even if they get those products, they're at a very high price. So here also we can apply the concepts of ABC. As you see, the class A items will be very few items, but they are going to consume 70 to 80% of the budget. For let's say a bigger portfolio of 300 products, you will have just 20% of products which will consume your majority of budget. And those items, because their demand is high, their budget is high, you may get manufacturers to bid for those products. And this is in terms of procurement. And this applies to probably some large scale hospitals as well. And you can directly go for those product by product to suppliers, to directly to manufacturers to bid them, and you will get better prices as well. And then for the rest of the products, which are only consuming 20 to 30% of budget, rather than going item by item, you can create a full bunch of those products and get quotations from wholesalers or distributors to supply them as a whole, as a full basket. That will make it that will incentivize those wholesalers or distributors, because they're not supplying one product, but they probably are supplying 200 products altogether. Okay, and they may then come up with some quotation. Yes, you may miss a few products, they may not have all the products, and you may have to go to 1 or 2 different wholesalers. But together with 1 or 2 wholesalers, you may get 80 to 90% of those products, which otherwise would be very difficult to procure for that small organization or for a small country. So ABC analysis has this wide application in terms of procurement, where you can categorize and segment your products to get better prices, to get better competition with manufacturers, and also to secure your supplies, because sometimes it gets very difficult to find supplies. And we have seen so many times bids have been floated, there have been no responses, and then bids have to be cancelled, or bids are floated, you only get one response, and that's a very high price, but you don't have any other choice, so you have to go with that price. So segmenting your overall procurement list of items in this way may help you get better prices, securing your supplies, and finally, getting those products in country or in your organization. So that is one, another application of ABC analysis, just not just warehousing or storage, but also in procurement. Similarly, when we talk about quality assurance, and quality assurance is a big issue in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, and as you may know that a few years back, there was a report which said that about 40% of medicines in sub-Saharan African market were either substandard or falsified. And not just in the private market, but also in public sector market somehow. So that means that there was some kind of loopholes in terms of how the quality of the products were being ascertained. So that means somehow either the choice of manufacturer was wrong, which was resulting in substandard products, or somehow fake falsified products were entering into the system. Now, there is always less budget when it comes to procuring products. So how do we include budget to do quality assurance, which requires its own budget, because there are a lot of things you need to do in quality assurance. When you have a low budget for procurement, it becomes very difficult to allocate even further money for quality assurance. And again, here we can apply this segmentation of ABC analysis. So which are your critical products? You do a very stringent analysis of those products. And you will see that for 80% of your budget, your products are of high quality. For the rest of them, you can apply other methodologies like making sure that they are the suppliers registered in their own countries of origin. They have a valid GMP certificates. You can do some sort of document verification, but you don't need to do sampling. You don't need to do probably inspections. You don't need to do testing, because that takes a lot of time as well. So, and time means money in this case as well, because if you're doing testing, if you're doing inspections, that means you're also utilizing a lot of money. So focusing on those 20% of products and making sure that you get the right quality, at least for those products. Now, I'm not saying that here you should get bad quality or fake products for B and C class items. But what I'm trying to say is that at least for the priority products, you are very sure that you're getting very high quality of products. But then, of course, you do some level of quality check like document verification and work with the local FDA to make sure that they were registered. They're not coming in without registration as well. Although right now, there are so many countries who are working hand in glove with their FDAs to make sure that the products which are coming in are registered. They have the valid GMP certificates, and somehow the other, they have been checked by the FDA. But personally, I feel, and this is a school of thought from, which I also come from. I also feel that the organization which is procuring, whether it is a central medical store or a national purchasing organization, they should also have some level of responsibility in what they are procuring. So it should not just be the FDA. It should also be the procuring organization. And that's where, you can use this classification if anyone is a procurement officer here who's working in a procurement organization, to see that, okay, at least my 20% of products which are contributing to 80% of the budget in my organization are, quality assured. So this is how we also use ABC analysis into quality assurance. Now, you might say that, but what about those products, like Princely was asking before, which are not very high in demand, which are not of very high value, but are equally life-saving? So what do we do? So do we just, forget about them? Do we not ensure their quality? Do we not procure them in a right manner? So how do we, put them back in consideration? So that's where we need the VEN classification, VEN classification. A lot of you must have already heard about VEN. This is a quite common way of classifying products. There are several countries where they have encoded the VEN classification in their essential medicines list as well. So if you open the essential medicine list, against each product, you will find V or E or N written. So you know that for their entire country, they've classified probably 20-25 products which are vital that they're classifying it as. Okay, so let's quickly discuss what is VEN classification, which will help you get better results when you segment your inventory or when you segment your procurement lists for sourcing or for quality assurance. Okay, so as you see here, so VEN, vital, essential, non-essential. We classify the products based on their therapeutic effect. V category products, vital products, are life-saving products. So if they are not available, that means that the patient can die. It may cause an irreparable injury, or a major health outcome can be jeopardized. So those products which you need, whenever there is an issue. For example, just an example, and I've heard this example from several clinicians or public health specialists. So for example, if you go to Southern Africa, in South Africa or in Zimbabwe or in Botswana, where you find a lot of snakes, for example. Now, when a snake bites a person, and if it is a lethal snake like a rattlesnake, or in India we get king cobras, for example. If that kind of a snake bites a person, 9 out of 10 times that person is going to die if you don't have antivenoms in your drugstore, in your facilities. But the frequency or the probability of these kind of situations occurring are very low. So you may get in a year 20 people who have been bitten by snakes in a small country. So you may need just 20 vials, for example, okay, in one whole year. And it's very difficult, to budget for those. It's very difficult to foresee those as well, because there is no pattern. It can 10 people can be bitten in 10 days, or one person can be bitten in 1 month. So there is no pattern as well. And if you do just ABC analysis, the antivenom will come as C item. So you may not want to procure it because you have other items to procure, like anti-malarials, HIV products, TB products. You may not be able to prioritize it if you're just doing ABC analysis. But if you're doing VEN analysis, that's when you will see that, oh, but I would also need at least 50 vials of these to keep in some of those high risk areas where there has been instances of snake biting the people. Okay, so that's why you categorize the items as vital medical products as well. Similarly, there are essential products which are needed in the facility, in the absence of which the patient can suffer a lot of pain and discomfort, but they may not die in their absence, but it is good to have it. Okay. And finally, there are non-essential or necessary. Some people call it necessary, some people call it non-essential. So I'm using both the terms, which are just necessary in a facility, the absence of which may be justified. If you have enough budget, you can have them. They are of some use, but they are not always required, or if required, they're not life-saving, or they're not preventing any major discomfort or pain. Okay, so this is how we are categorizing the VEN. Okay, now similar to ABC analysis, VEN classification is also different from place to place. It depends on the condition for which that we're talking about. How frequent is that condition, or how many people are suffering from that condition in your location, or in your country, or in a region. So it needs to be conducted at various places. And sometimes we have seen that two hospitals or health facilities which are 100 kilometers apart from each other have different classifications because of the conditions that people are suffering in those particular areas. So sometimes those classifications may also vary from countries to countries. So it cannot be that there can be just one classification of VEN maybe done by WHO. So that's why you will not find any VEN classification done by World Health Organization, because they cannot do it. It depends from country to country, region to region. Okay. So moving on, I want to give you a bit of an exercise here where I want to understand that you get the idea of VEN. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll. It has 4 different medications, names of 4 different medications. And what I wanted to do is tell us, based on your own perspective, whether you would classify it as vital, essential, or necessary. Okay, and then we will see what the results are. And what I want you to see is the difference, in perspectives and in from location to location. So I'm just going to launch the poll right now. And here it is on your screen. So you have 4 different products: insulin injection, co-amoxiclav tablet, amlodipine, and iron and folic acid tablets. I hope every one of you understand these products. I believe you're working in health. And if you don't understand it, maybe you may not want to respond to it, but that's okay. But I just want you to understand that different people might consider different products into different categories, depending on their own context. So a clear answer for insulin, I think everyone has termed it vital, and rightly so. Insulin injection, not a tablet, okay? Insulin injection is different from insulin tablet. So if they don't get the injection, they may feel real discomfort, and that is a clear answer that it is vital. Although someone out of the 18 responses we have got so far, someone has termed it essential as well, probably because in their geography, they don't use injection too often. Probably people are not diabetic too much in their location. So that's why they don't have insulin injection. They're not using it too much. And probably that's why they call it essential. Similarly, when we saw co-amoxiclav tablets, majority of you have termed it as essential. And I think which is quite right. It's an antibiotic. Probably because you're calling it essential because there are several alternatives to it as well. So if it is not available, you may have another antibiotic with similar kind of an effect to give it to patients. Now the debate is under amlodipine. I'm going to let me stop the poll now. Maybe let me just wait for another 10 seconds, but let me read it out. So amlodipine is the clear, where there is a big debate. There are 9 people who are calling it vital. There are 8 people who are calling it essential. So see here, it really depends on the condition. So amlodipine is for high blood pressure, right? Now it really depends how high blood pressure is treated in your geography, how many patients do you have, how you use this product, how it is prescribed. So you are giving the answer based on your own perspective. But if you see here, it is really different from another person who's in a different geography where probably they have more patients. Amlodipine is a medicine of choice. It has to be there. People also like that product because it helps them and it becomes vital in that sense. And if they don't give amlodipine, they may not have an alternative for it in their essential medicine list. And that's why it becomes a vital product. Similarly, if we look at iron folic acid, there's a big debate. Some are calling, 9 of them are calling it, let me share it now. So iron and folic acid, 9 people are calling it essential and 8 are calling it non-essential. But there are 2 who are calling it vital as well. Now IFA is given to pregnant women. First of all, I hope everyone of you know that IFA, most of it is given to pregnant women, and if not, mostly to women as well. So if you, now it really depends on your context, how pregnant women are treated, what kind of medications are given to them, and if there is an alternative to it as well. Maybe you have different iron tablets and different folic acid tablets, maybe you call them vital, but the IFA combination you don't call it vital. So it's really difficult to do a generalization in terms of VEN. And that's why what I was saying before, that VEN has to be done at every facility, probably every hospital, every region, and then consolidated for a country. So the country cannot do it just like that, sitting at a national level saying, okay, let's do VEN today. Maybe we get 5 experts and then do it. They may not have all the information required, from different facilities, different regions. So it has to be a ground up activity, and it's very difficult. So you can do it for your own facilities, you can do it for your hospitals, you can also do it for your warehouses by asking the facilities what you consider as vital, essential, and non-essential. And that's how you can do it for a warehouse. If you are, some of you, if you are at a warehouse which probably supplies to 10-15 facilities. Then Amasi says, I think insulin, amlodipine, vital, consider the consequence of not taking it by sick patients. Yes, absolutely right, Amasi. But again, it really depends. I mean, for insulin and amlodipine, it's clear. but there may be some people, depending on their context, calling it slightly essential as well. But mostly it should be, mostly vital. For us in CBC, amlodipine is vital because we run a hypertensive clinic. Yes, absolutely. See, for a hypertensive clinic, this is a vital product. But if you don't have a focused hypertensive clinic, then it may not be a vital product. Okay. So again, what I wanted to show you is that this is a mixed area. There is no one size fits all. So along with ABC, we should be able to do this VEN classification. Now, your next question should be, so how do we do VEN classification? When there is such a difference in opinion, how do we objectively categorize if a product is vital, essential, or non-essential? So the next slide that I am focusing on is to answer exactly this question, that how would you categorize products into V, E, or N? This slide might be slightly difficult to read, so don't worry about reading it right now. The slides will be shared with you. An entirely different template, Excel template, very simple, quick and easy qualitative template will be shared with you so that you can do it with your own products. I'm going to read it out so that you can listen to my voice and try to understand what I'm saying. So we're using three distinct, you can say, factors to classify products into VEN. First of all is occurrence of target condition. How frequent is that condition? How many people are affected? How many patients do you get per day in a facility? Second is severity of target condition. Is it life-threatening? Is it disabling? Or it is not? Third is therapeutic effect of the medicine. The medicine prevents very serious disease. The medicine cures serious disease. Now, you should be able to, identify the difference between these two, prevention and cure. Okay, there's a difference between these two. And then finally, it treats minor self-limiting symptoms and conditions. So there are these three subcategories under the therapeutic effect of the medicine, and based on which you categorize the medicines into vital, essential, or non-essential. I've also given three quick examples here. These are again fictional examples, by the way. Okay, so don't think that this is happening somewhere in the world. They're completely fictional, just to show you how to come up with these categories. Now, if I talk about pre-mixed insulin injection, in a particular facility, they say that they have about 10% of population who are affected by this, which is probably a high number for them. They get 7 patients every day, which is a very high number for them, because on a monthly basis, that would mean they're getting more than 200 patients just to get that insulin injection. So that's a very high number for a average facility, and it's a life-threatening condition. If they don't get the insulin, they will face very high discomfort. They may also lose their lives. This product, it cures serious disease. Okay, so it helps people, lead a normal, healthy life, without which they are going to suffer. So that's why we are going to categorize it as vital. Now, similarly, if for any of you, the affected population is less than 1%, if you don't get that many patients on a daily basis, you may want to think about calling it essential, but it really depends on all three of them. So if combined all three conditions, the three factors that we talked about, they are high, so high number of population affected, high number of patients that you are getting on an average, daily average basis, is life-threatening, it cures or prevents serious disease, then it is definitely vital. But if an aspirin tablet, where the condition that is it is used for, less number of population is affected, you don't get as many patients on a daily basis, it is occasionally life-threatening or occasionally disabling, aspirin does not prevent serious disease, or it may possibly cure some serious disease, and it sometimes possibly also treats minor self-limited symptoms and conditions. So it's kind of in the middle, and that's why you're categorizing it essential. And finally, we have the paracetamol tablet. That is probably one of the most common medicine that has been there in most of the pharmacies in different names, in different forms, but it may be in high demand, but it is not very vital. So if you don't have paracetamol, and if you don't give patient paracetamol, the only thing that is happening is they may face some pain for some time, or that similar pain can also be reduced by some other medication. So similarly, if you see here, it does not prevent any serious disease. It only treats minor self-limiting symptoms and conditions. It is the condition that paracetamol is used to treat is rarely life-threatening. So that's why it's a non-essential product, but it can be a high demand product. So it can be very high in A, but it is in N, it's non-essential. Okay, so this is just a simple qualitative format for you to use. Now you need to see here, those percentages that I've put here, those percentages can differ, by the way. It can differ for a bigger warehouse. It can differ for a very large facility or hospital, because in a hospital, if we talk about more than 5 patients, that does not mean anything. So you need to create those categories based on an average number of visits on a daily basis in a hospital. If it is 1,000 patients that you're seeing in a hospital on a daily basis, then those columns, the categories will have to change slightly. Okay, those first 2, occurrence of target condition, because they are slightly more quantitative. The rest of them, they remain the same. And you can do a quick qualitative analysis using this, then get into a discussion with various members to see whether this is the right interpretation of these products. Okay, you can also invite senior clinicians, some experts who can validate your analysis. Okay, and then you can try to publish it, you can try to combine it with ABC, and how to combine it with ABC, I will show you in the next slide. So how do you combine ABC and Venn analysis? So the 2 critical categories for us to focus are category A and category V. So we can plot them. So there are 3 categories on each side, so it's a 3 by 3 matrix. So if you see, I've highlighted the highest priority, which is category A plus V, category A plus E, essential, and category A plus N, non-essential. So even if paracetamol is a non-essential product, we still have to focus on it because it's a high demand product. It's under A. Then we're also focusing on category vital plus B and category vital plus C, like this anti-snake venom. It is required in very less doses on an annual basis. It sometimes, I think it is still slightly a high value product, but because of the number of items required in an overall budget, it may stand very low, but it's a vital item. You need it in a facility, otherwise the patient may die. So that's your first priority, the combination of category A with VEN and the combination of category V with ABC. So you have 5 blocks here, which you need to prioritize first. Then there are 3 blocks, okay, which you need to prioritize second, which is category B with essential, category C with essential, and category B with non-essential. So those are your middle sector, which you need to put some sort of focus, some sort of effort to manage your inventories, manage your forecasting, manage your sourcing strategies so that those products are available. And at the very end are those products which are lowest in both the categories. They're non-essential and they're also category C. Okay, so that's the last priority for you. Okay, so this is how you combine an ABC and VEN matrix. And this is, you can do it in an Excel, you can do it in a Word file, but first you need both sets of data. You need an ABC analysis done, you need a VEN analysis done for the same set of products, and then you plot them in this kind of a format. Okay, so let me quickly move on to the next Q&A. I will spend about 2 to 5 minutes here, and then I will move on to the next segment, and then I'll have to hand it over to Gilles as well. So question for you, and you can also ask questions here. Have you seen VN classification done for your facility or warehouse? Have you seen any applications of the VN analysis? So over to you, and you can also ask any questions as well up to this point.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have been used for fund classification at the time of medical supply procurement, and the application that we use for fund is to allocate budgets the very essential supplies in order to respond the disease prevalence in our country. Thank you.
Okay, so how do someone ensure ABC and quality assurance in a situation where people depend on donor fund policy for procurement? That is being asked by Natale Gon from, I think, South Sudan. Definitely, Natale. I mean, this is the probably the third or fourth or the fifth classification that we can again talk about is a donor policies. Like Global Fund will give you some policies. USAID may give you some policies that, okay, you need to have a particular manufacturer to procure from, a particular type of products to procure from. So you as a country or as an organization need to decide your first priority. That what is your first priority? Is it to comply with the donors' policies, or is it to comply with your own country's policies? So in this case, whether or not you have donor policies or not, your country or an organization need to create a matrix of policies that you need to follow. Over there, you can write that, okay, the first policy, the first priority is given to donors. So whatever that they will say, because they're funding these products, we will have to comply. Within that, then we can apply VN or ABC, and any which ways, most of the donors are actually funding for vital products, I would say. They're funding for HIV products, malaria products, TB products, RMNCH products, sometimes nutrition. And I would say most of them, if not all, are vital products. And also, most of them, if not all, would fall under A category. Okay, so you need to look at those products which are being funded by the donors, and then understand your own policies, your policies of the country, policies of the organization. Okay. The next question is, it's not a question, I think it's a comment from Kenfrey that yes, we always use VN to decide. That's very good. Shaire, some health institutions do not have VN categorization. It makes it difficult to use. Yes, Shaire, you're right, and that is the reason our attempt is to empower all of you so that you can advocate for this change. Change does not happen overnight, and for any change, right change, we need advocates, and we believe you are going to be the ones to advocate for this kind of a method, more logical method where you can resolve a lot of issues. Okay, so you have to be the advocates to make sure that change happens. Okay, great. So I see some good comments to each other, so that's very good. Let me quickly move on to a very small section, and then I will hand it over to Gilles. So we looked at a lot of the assignments which came in. I selected these 3 assignments from the 18 or 19 assignments that we had received so far. One from Kenya, one from Nigeria, and one from Cameroon. It's not to favor any participant, first of all. That was not an intention. The reason I selected these 3 was because of the differences that it had, in the way they were analyzed, in the way the data was. Okay, all assignments which were received, they were really well done. Some of them, they had used very less number of products, like 13 products, 20 products. I would advise that if you're doing ABC for a facility, try to use slightly more number of products for a more meaningful analysis. Yes, you will be able to see the ABC analysis for 13 products as well, but that may not be too meaningful. But if you do it for 100 products, that will give you a bit more meaningful result Okay, so it doesn't mean that the ones who have done it for 13 products is not correct. It's entirely correct. It may not be that meaningful based on certain context. That's the only reason. Now, if we compare these three cases, we will see that it's not always 20-80 ratio. In the first case, it is 20-61.5. The second case is 20-69%. The third case is 20-78.4%. So it's varied. And also the number of products, 23 versus 13 versus 15. Okay. I also wanted to focus on what kind of products there were, in the A class items. So in Kenya, they're using more anti-malarial products. That means Kenya has a high burden of malaria. They're also using a lot of HIV products. That tells you in that region from where Abdi collected the data, there is a high burden of HIV as well. In case 2 from Nigeria, Chukwu used a lot of, I would say, supplies, medical supplies like test kits, reagents, gloves, those kind of things. And in those, we will see that the gloves were one of the items which were in high demand as well. And reagent kits were quite high in demand in that entire list. So that tells you probably it was for a laboratory or for a program which were procuring supplies. So you can also infer these kind of information from ABC analysis as well. And for Cameroon, there were a lot of diabetic patients. If you see, there are 2 items. There is insulin as well. And there was other anti-diabetic products like gliclazide, okay, that was high in demand. So that tells you that in that area, people are suffering from diabetes a lot. So you can also infer these kind of information by looking at what items are there which are high in demand. So even if I'm not in Kenya, I'm not in Nigeria, I'm not in Cameroon, but I can still tell by looking at this sheet that what is the condition that patients are suffering from in Kenya or in Nigeria or in Cameroon just by looking at the products and the demand. Okay, so these kind of inferences are also possible using ABC analysis. So quickly, I will hand it over to Gilles for this section, and I hope that you're going to participate in this. So Gilles, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, everyone. So the question, the first question is not really handing it over to me, it's handing it over to the floor for everyone to really tell us, how would you use the results from the ABC analysis. So please, let's start from the work you've done, those who have done the work. How do you think you can apply? Some of those points have already been raised through the question. With a good question about asking, how can you use that when you're in a rigid system, whether it is your internal system or whether it is external to your organization. For instance, when you have program drugs which are being prioritized by donors or by your government. But still, if you have any suggestions about how you can make change happen, how you can use those results, this is the time we would like to hear from you.
Yeah, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon where you are.
Good day.
Yes, I'm naturally from South Sudan. Brief background is I'm a general practitioner, but now a master's student for supply chain at Rwanda University. I'm very pleased to join this program. To make it very short, a result of ABC analysis, I think it will give you a clue of how the organization is running, even if it is the warehouse or the small storage area. And that one will give you also how are you going to plan in the future in regards to this health commodity or supplies. As put it by a presenter, it will help us to forecast and see the high demands of the commodities that will be procured, for instance, so that it has to help our community. And this one also will help us to see which health commodities that we can redistribute so that I avoid expiry, for instance. Because with the experience we have in South Sudan and where I'm working, we depend on donor donations. So many drugs have to be given, and you will end up sometime with a huge amount of drugs that are expired, and it become very constrained when it comes to issue to do with the junking, because it will incur some cost. So really, this is very important, and this will help us as practitioners. Over to you.
You know, even though we are a mission organization, the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services, but we equally need money to equally pay staff, and we need money to do other technical work to keep the system functioning and growing. So in as much as ABC analysis is concerned, you know, within the context of the CBC Health Services, it only helps when we are talking about procurement. Just like Mr. Wilson mentioned, you hardly find us applying ABC analysis in warehousing or storing of products in the government. The system that I want to use to actually see how ABC comes in play has to do a lot with our local purchases. You know, sometimes when our central pharmacy cannot supply us the essentials, they will always give us the right to buy from other external suppliers within the CBC. And we have those ones that are registered that are capable to supply us medications. So we actually go in for those essential products. Just like you have the insulins, as we mentioned in our AA products, we cannot be saying that we should go in for snake venom when we have patients who are in need of diabetic care who need insulin. It's not every day that people are beaten with snakes. So we prefer to keep maybe anti-snake venom at a C level, and we prioritize the insulins or the lantus paints for the A products. So it will be better for us to go in for those products, and it will actually give us a good room to, you know, like bring in more income into the service, because those drugs, those insulins that go in day out, they mostly go in day out, and our diabetic patients need them frequently, or maybe on a monthly basis. So what was actually carried out in our service gave us a room to actually go in for those drugs that we need on a daily basis, which we can consider them as vitals. And it also gives us room to, you know, like manage our inventory properly, because we know the ones that we actually need at a certain point in time. We don't need to be conducting ABC analysis all the time. But from our inventory management, we will know, we can actually read them to know that, hey, these ones always go out faster than the other. So that gives you a room to actually technically manage your inventory analysis properly. And you know what you are going in for that can generate income into the service. So that is how I think I can be able to apply ABC analysis in my own service, using VEN in collaboration with ABC analysis to actually succeed in inventory management and actually patient satisfaction. Thank you.
I appreciate B-Skill once more for this opportunity they have put at the disposal of stock managers around the world so they can improve on their performance in their job functions within the framework of stock management, resources management. Just to take it a little further from where Principle and Wilson have spoken, the issue, what's preventing us from applying ABC analysis in warehousing in the CBC, it's mainly because in most of our stores, there is space constraints, and that's what is hampering the application of ABC analysis in warehousing. I want also to say that having been part of stock management, both at the central level of the CBC and at the peripheral stores, I've had donors wanting me to really put it clearly to them how much of the things will we need, how much of supplies will we need, especially in the area of those things they take interest in. And it's not been possible to really graphically represent this data to them. And so I struggle to convince them, but I must assure you that going forward from here, I'll be able to graphically represent this data of our consumption of the various commodities, and they can see for themselves where those commodities fall. And I think that that will make better informed decisions on funding. That's what I wanted to say briefly. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think it's a very important. It's very important to have said so. It's a very good way to show that the graphical representation can really help people focusing on what is important. And we know we are living at a time of image data, and sometimes being able to combine data and image is going to be very important.
And before we leave, I also want to encourage you to follow us on the social media. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So on YouTube, you will find a lot of videos. So this particular workshop, the final processed video will also be on YouTube. You can watch it, you can share it. Follow us on LinkedIn, where we are most active. You get to find whatever is happening on the Hive or the new products or the new courses. So all the information that comes on LinkedIn and Facebook. So please follow our pages so that you get better connected to us. And although you may be on the Hive, but sometimes you may not log in and may not get some of the information. So following on the social media also helps you keep abreast of what is happening at the Hive and some new information from everyone.